Hello there. Well, I thought I'd do a video about the memorial because it turns out it's on April 3rd, which is just a few days away. So probably there are lots of people who've received one of those memorial invitations who aren't necessarily Jehovah's Witnesses. Or maybe you know it's the memorial and you've got Jehovah's Witness family who are asking you to attend and you're thinking, should I go? And the simple answer is, well, do whatever you want to do. It's completely your choice. But it wouldn't make a very interesting video if that's all I said for the entire video. So let me just run you through what I think of the memorial, and maybe if you're in some kind of dilemma as to what to do, it might help you to reach a decision. So the interesting thing is that the invitation for the memorial had a big caption on the front which said something along the lines of "Millions are attending, will you?" And I found that rather an ironic title or caption for slogan's probably best, slogan. I found it an interesting slogan because one thing that, I was obviously raised as a witness, and one thing that I was constantly being told about as a young witness was peer pressure. Don't do something just because everyone else wants you to do it. If everyone's smoking, or if everyone's drinking, or if everyone's doing something they shouldn't be doing, don't just do it because everyone else is doing it. Well, why can't this logic work both ways? Just because millions are going to the memorial, that doesn't necessarily mean it's something everyone should do. Millions of people go to Mecca every year. That doesn't mean everyone should go and become a Muslim. But I wanted to, I found that a very strange slogan for the leaflet, and I wanted to read what it says on the invitation. Maybe you've had an invitation through your letterbox, or maybe a friend or a family member who's a witness has given you one. And it says, "Attend what? On the night before he died, Jesus met with his apostles. At that time, he introduced a simple ceremony and he told them, 'Keep doing this in remembrance of me.' They were to do so in remembrance of the sacrifice he was about to make in behalf of mankind. Last year, in obedience to Jesus' command, almost 20 million people worldwide observed this annual event. What about this year? The memorial of Christ's death will be held on Friday, April 3rd, 2015, after sundown. Jehovah's Witnesses warmly invite you to be present with them on this important occasion. You will learn how Jesus' life and death can benefit you personally." Now, the thing to say about the memorial, well, obviously I could talk about it along religious grounds, which I will do a little bit, but obviously now I'm no longer a witness. I'm actually an agnostic atheist, so I don't believe that the God of the Bible is real. Shocker. I respect anyone who does, or I respect their right to think that, but personally I don't. So I don't really have a horse in the race of whether, religiously speaking, if all religions are false, I don't have a major issue theologically with the memorial, apart from the fact that don't let anyone convince you that it's based on the Bible, or don't let anyone convince you that the only way to be a Christian is to go to the memorial. Why do I say that? Well, Jehovah's Witnesses have what's called or what's often referred to as a two-tier Christianity. Why do I say two-tier? Well, you're either going to heaven, you're either one of the 144,000 people who are going to go to heaven, or you make up the rest of those who will survive Armageddon. You're going to inherit a paradise earth, and this can only be a fairly limited number of people compared to everyone who's ever lived, because you have to basically be a Jehovah's Witness or someone who could be identified as being a Jehovah's Witness. So you have this two-tier Christianity. Now the problem is that when you read the Bible and let the Bible do the talking, it doesn't describe two-tier Christianity. there was just one type of Christian, and that type of Christian was going to heaven. sorry to let the cat out of the bag there, but no. All of the scriptures where Jesus is talking about what happens after someone dies refer to someone going to heaven. And there's a really interesting video. I'm going to put a link here. There's a really interesting video about Paradise Earth, where another YouTuber called Ex-Gilead Missionary, who's actually been through Gilead, he talks about the fact that there aren't actually any scriptures anywhere in the Bible that talk about there being a Paradise Earth. And yet the entire Jehovah's Witness theology is set up around this idea of there being two sets of Christians, some who go to heaven and some who live in a Paradise Earth. Well, if there's going to be a Paradise Earth after Armageddon, the Bible is being very tight-lipped on the issue, shall we say. Very tight-lipped, because nowhere in the Bible does it say there will be Armageddon and then the earth will be turned into a paradise. It just doesn't happen. There's scriptures that you can twist to make the Bible say that, just as there are scriptures you can twist to say pretty much anything. But when you read the Bible in context and you examine what Jesus was saying to his disciples, and you basically look at all the instances where the word paradise is used, you quickly realise that there is no such thing as a Paradise Earth. If you're a Christian, if you sincerely believe in Christianity, which obviously doesn't apply to me, but if you're a Christian, then you're going to heaven after you die. That's what happens. So coming back to the memorial, the reason why that's an issue is because there will come a point in the memorial, if you go, where a glass of red wine, or glasses of red wine, and plates of bread, usually matzos, are passed around Kingdom Hall, and your job, if you attend, is to literally hold the plate or hold the glass of wine on your row as it comes past. There are attendants who go up and down, and when they pass each row, they'll pass the glass of wine, or they'll pass the plate of bread. And if you're sat down attending the memorial, your only job will be to, like on a factory line, to pass the plate along or pass the glass of wine along. Now, if you believe that you're one of the 144,000 who are going to heaven, then you get to have a nibble of the matzos and have a little sip of the red wine. But I'll give a link in the description to a Watchtower where people who do that basically you're allowed to do that if you're a governing body member, and you're allowed to do that if you've been doing that for quite some time, and you've been through the kind of you've been through the mill years ago, and now it's just accepted that that's what you're going to do. But if you're thinking about doing it for the first time, expect some funny looks. Expect to be the person who's thrown a spanner in the works, shall we say. So yeah, the only real point of you going is to pass, they're called the emblems, to pass the emblems. And it's made very, very clear in the talk that that's all you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to eat of the emblems, and you're not supposed to eat of the bread, and you're not supposed to drink of the wine. Why? Because you're not going to heaven. You're going to, hopefully, if everything works out and you pass muster as a Jehovah's Witness, the best you can hope for is a life on a Paradise Earth, which, as I've said in a previous video, will be kind of a landscaped dystopia where the corpses of billions of people who've been murdered at Armageddon will be just underneath the lawn while you're petting the pandas and the lions, and there'll be bodies, shall we say, out of sight, but yeah, they'll be there. So should you go to the memorial? Well, it might be that you don't believe any of what I've just said. You might be a Christian, and you might believe that you're going to go to heaven, and all of this Paradise Earth nonsense might make absolutely zero sense. But you might just want to go along to make your family happy. Even if you're like a non-believer, you might think, well, I don't believe in any of it, but I'm just going to make my family happy and, give them a slither of hope that I might survive Armageddon. Well, listen, that's your decision. That's entirely your choice. And I did that. I did that for at least 2 memorials, because I was inactive for 2 years after I woke up. So I went to 2 memorials. It was almost like a deal I reached with my elders, where I said, listen, I'm going to be inactive, but don't worry, I'll go to the memorial. So I felt like I had to do it, and you could see the joy on the faces of your family members when you went. But the caveat to that is that obviously, if you don't believe anything that Jehovah's Witnesses teach, which hopefully you don't if you've had any time to think about it, you're flirting with giving your family or friends false hope, aren't you? Let's face it. You're giving them something to hang on to that isn't really there, and only intensifying the disappointment when year after year goes by and you don't do anything with what they're telling you to do. So there's kind of a plus side and a downside. The plus side is that you keep them off your back, and you see the smiles on their faces, and you make them happy. But the downside is that it's a very temporary happiness, and it could even be sort of making things worse in the long term. But that's not for me to decide. That's for you to decide. And I've done it, so I would be the last person to judge you if you decided to go for those reasons. But if you've just been handed the invitation, perhaps by a work colleague, and you don't know much about Jehovah's Witnesses, and you just think, oh, this might be interesting, for goodness sake, don't go. Just don't go. Unless you have a reason to go, which is, as I've just explained, to make people happy, who are related to you in some way. Honestly, your job will be to pass a glass of wine from person A to person B, and to do the same thing with a plate of matzos. That's it. Everything else in the talk is geared towards trying to convince you to come to the Kingdom Hall again. Okay, so pretty much everything else that's said in terms of the the overall talk itself, the scriptures that are read, obviously they'll explain what's happening from their own viewpoint, but the whole idea of the memorial, really, if I'm going to be uber skeptical about it, is to get bums on seats, get as many people from the community inside the Kingdom Hall for a one-off event as possible, in the hopes that some of it will stick. If you throw enough mud at the wall, I'm not calling my viewers mud, by the way. If you throw enough mud at the wall, some of it will stick, and I think that's basically what the memorial is. If you get enough people to attend, surely some of them will come again, and that's why they have a special public talk not long after the memorial, as a kind of entry, a kind of means of briefing people into pursuing a Bible study. So, should you go to the memorial or not, entirely your decision. But whatever decision you reach, make sure you're aware of what the event is about, what effects it will have on family or friends, and just give it some thought. And everything else, it's completely up to you. So I hope my rambling has made some degree of sense, and thank you for watching.